Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, where everything you're about to hear and see has been done in one take. I am your host, the One Take Man. Just as I promised last week in a video, and just in time for July 4th, I am coming back to Marvel in order to touch upon its first Civil War event comic. More precisely, talking about the changes I would make to it in order to make the event better. As in, more plausible, more grounded in reality, so to speak. Or more justified in what it tries to do. This won't be like my usual how I would videos, because I don't really have the time or the knowledge to really go as in-depth as that would take. It's more of a script doctor, where I look into various individual points and suggest improvements that would make the story overall somewhat better. So let's start with number 1, the Superhero Registration Act, i.e. the thing the main characters are actually fighting over. The act itself, or even a summary thereof, was never really known, either to the general public or within Marvel itself, as far as I've been made aware. And that led to a lot of confusion among the writers as to what it should actually say. And that confusion carried on in the, maybe not necessarily in the event itself, but in the tie-ins, where it was unclear whether or not the concerns of the characters within the story were actually valid, or what kind of ramifications the act passing would actually have. So that is something that needs to be cleared up, primarily. And I won't go through the whole act, just a summary. It should be something that is somewhat callous, maybe casually dismissive, but ultimately pragmatic. My suggestion for that is all people with superhuman abilities should be registered. Not necessarily for the purposes of conscription or anything like that, but rather in case someone with a superhuman ability commits a crime, then the law enforcement can just look into the registry, find all the people with said the superhuman ability, and immediately get a list of suspects. It seems small, but I think it helps. But I think it helps elevate the actual point of the story. Speaking of, number 2, the justification. This whole Civil War mess was started by one particular fight between a teams of heroes and villains going tragically wrong. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to downplay the severity of 600 fictional deaths, but this is Marvel we're talking about. Earth has seen much worse up until that point, and the government's reaction was never this severe or this quick. This is really bad, even by incompetent government standards. And when you take into account that this comic is supposed to be a commentary on post-9/11 USA, this event becomes even worse, because 9/11 wasn't just some run-of-the-mill tragedy or a general accident that just sometimes happens, the way that particular fight was. It was a terrorist attack, and it still is to this day the biggest officially recognized as such terrorist attack to occur anywhere on the planet. So there was a lot more impetus. There was a stronger justification as to why the citizens of the USA would accept a law like the Patriot Act, that the Superhero Registration Act is kind of obviously meant to emulate. So you need the in-universe justification to be as massive or as severe or as significant. My suggestion for what it should be, in 4 words: Doctor Doom threatens war. In a previous event comic called Secret War, a team of superpowered individuals from the United States infiltrates Latveria, the country Doom is in charge of, for purposes of an operation that went badly. Once it was revealed, The main the main fallout I've noticed is that Nick Fury steps down as the director of Shield. My suggestion is that in this alternate civil war, or for the purposes of this alternate civil war, instead of that being the only consequence, Doom himself finds out about about this incursion into his country and issues a warning to the USA. Either make a law that makes your superpowered citizens accountable, or he will declare war. If you wanted to have an action opener, you can have Doom launch a retaliatory strike against the USA, particularly for this for this operation, and then issue his warning. The United States government, which is frankly terrified of a world with Latveria, given Latveria outmatches them in every way that counts, will quickly try to create such a law and rush it through Congress. Tony Stark, like any good capitalist, will side with his employer, the US government, whereas Cap would vehemently oppose this law on the grounds of it is an unnecessary limit on the liberty of the citizenry of the United States, and this is not the kind of liberty that should be imposed by a foreigner and a known villain. No one from the outside the U.S. should have that kind of effect on internal U.S. policy. That, I think, gives both sides a more solid grounding and justification for their positions. Number 3. Scale and combatants. I think it's best to treat this as mainly an Avengers story that then gradually balloons out. You don't really have to pull in everyone at once, as I've kind of been led to believe that this comic actually does. And primarily, I like the idea that there are certain hero factions who are neutral, maybe even villain factions who are neutral. However, I want them to actually stay neutral, as in completely outside, as in completely not to interfere with this event. Ideally, not even be mentioned, even in assisting roles. The main people I'm thinking about are the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Doctor Strange, and Namor. Maybe a few others. I don't know. Give them something else to do in their own storylines, or contrive some kind of justification for why they are not involving themselves in in U.S. politics. Maybe because they're not U.S. citizens or something like that. That also means that their contributions, such as the Clone of 4 or the Negative Zone prison, for example, don't really play a role in the actual war. I'm okay with the Thunderbolts, i.e. a team of villains fighting for the pro-registration side, under 2 conditions. Firstly, it should show that Tony accepting the idea of the Thunderbolts is him succumbing to the influence of his secret advisor, whose identity will be revealed at the end of the event. And secondly, Cap should also have a team of villains fighting by his side. Why would the villains fight for Cap? Well, there are 2 possible reasons again. Either they're seeking redemption, or trying to reform, or they have their own reasons as to why they would want such a registry not to be implemented. I also want to bring in Hank Pym on Cap's side, partly because he is looking for redemption as well, trying to redeem his public image. Partly because I think him joining Cap's side will make the power imbalance between the sides a little bit more, a little less severe. This team composition should allow for a lot of potential debate, not just between the sides, but also within each side. Should give you more avenues to explore the actual ideological differences. Number 4, the actual conflict, or how it's supposed to go. And thing is, even with Hank Pym, the Scientist Supreme, on his side, Cap's side is still quite definitely the underdog. So they will definitely try to fight more disruptively. So they will go for guerrilla warfare and hit and run tactics. They should ideally win most of the battles within this war, but would not be able to capitalize on them because their enemy just overwhelms them. We are talking about the full might of the military-industrial complex right here. So they're easily overwhelmed, and any defeat they do acquire is that much more costly to them. They have to stay on the run and rely a lot more on popular support to actually to actually win. Speaking of, I also want this comic to go somewhat into the battle of images, with the pro-registration side choosing Tony as their mascot or their spokesperson, and launching a charm offensive to make their side seem more welcoming, more presentable, more competent, so to speak. Whereas Cap can only really rely on his personal example and his promises of liberty and redemption to really get the popular support, or any kind of support that he needs to win the war. That would mean that both sides are playing the same game, but at different difficulty settings, so to speak. And finally, number 5, ending and aftermath. I'm very much okay with Cap's side losing, because I think the Superhero Registration Act passing is actually more conducive to new potential storytelling avenues. Would freshen up the dynamic at Marvel a bit. I might even be okay with Cap surrendering, but I think the way it was done in the comic is far too convenient and far too simple. I don't think that the destruction that the war has caused would really discourage Cap from fighting. If anything, it would spur him on, because he went through all of that, and now he has to go just that little bit further, so that all the destruction will not have been in vain, so to speak. And so the war has to end with him succumbing as a result of an actual fight. And given that he was killed anyway in one of the aftermath storylines, I want this alternate Civil War to end with Cap's death, and after he dies, either his second in command, either Pym or some villain whose reformation managed to actually stick, formally surrenders. In the aftermath, most of Cap's side would be gradually reintegrated into the superhero community, registration and all. Some villains from both sides would get put away in jails and prisons, while some of Tony's side either retire or accept to be posted somewhere outside of the US. As for Tony himself, I want him to retire from his position as director of S.H.I.E.L.D., a position he will have acquired during the war, both in the actual Civil War comic and in this alternate Civil War comic, and appoint in his place his secret advisor, who also was one of the main lobbyists of the Registration Act, and was the one who pushed him into adopting increasingly sinister strategies, namely Norman Osborn. Yeah, I'm going full-on Darkest Ending with this storyline here, but I think the storyline allows for the bulk of the most interesting narrative setups that would allow for creative and engaging exploration of who these characters either are or end up being within the near future of Marvel. And yeah, that was my video. Thank you very much for your attention. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like. Maybe even share it with all those who you think will find it interesting. If you have anything you'd like to add, the comment section awaits your input. And if you want to see when the next video comes out, then please subscribe. Maybe also ring the bell or do whatever else YouTube will ask of you in order to keep you notified. Until next time, I have been the One Take Man.